Hello everyone, good evening. Good evening. Salion, hey, how are you doing? Welcome back. Welcome back. So, we are doing this. It is hot in Germany. Oh my goodness. Swan, hey. Good evening. Good to have you. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, while everyone's dropping in, I'm gonna tell you what we do tonight. Hopefully everything is working, seems to be. I have printed a bunch of more parts here, the frame segments for our little printer case. So I will build the rest of the frame tonight so that we have the whole cube in its full glory on the table. And we also have to print a few more parts. At least we need to figure out how to print those parts because they have to be oriented correctly. And I figured out that this isn't that trivial. So we'll find out if that works with the Ender 3v3. So far, all of this stuff has been printed on the Ender 3v3, and yeah, we'll see how it goes, how far we come. But I guess we're gonna, at least we are going to finish this upper frame and then connect everything together into this huge cube. And from there, the next steps are to mount the side panels and also the doors. That is definitely the next thing after building the frame. But we'll also have to figure out how we need to print a couple of the panel mounts so we can actually fix the acrylic panels to this frame correctly. And that's what we need to do also. So, I want to say welcome, 3DU Live. Good evening. How are you doing? I hope it's great where you are. I hope you're doing good. Hello, William. So, a couple of people already dropping in. We're still running the giveaway. Next week, Wednesday, in our next stream, we're going to do the giveaway for the Ender 3v3 KE. That's the printer here in this corner here behind me. Still waiting there to be won by one of you by using the nozzle. So I hope that you're gonna make it next week. You can still enter your nozzles anytime, even if I'm not live. You can also still win if you have already entered your ticket. So you in that way, it doesn't matter if you watch the stream next week, but if you don't have any nozzles yet to enter into the giveaway, you definitely need to be watching to collect them as per the giveaway definition, so, which you can find if you are on Twitch and you enter !giveaway into the chat, like I've done it here. You will see all the information about how the giveaway works and how to enter for next week. So I see that Faxter71 followed 2 hours ago, which is unfortunate because they are probably not here yet. But I'm happy for everyone joining tonight. We already have 12 people on YouTube and 5 people on Twitch watching. So I'm quickly gonna show you what we have built so far. Just need some space because this is getting quite large. So this is the frame that we already built. This is the part. This is actually the lower part, so it is going to sit on the table like this. Right. So this is the lower section, and we are going to build the exact same, almost exact identical part for the upper end. And then we are connecting everything together using connector pieces here on the side. Exactly 3 connector pieces in each direction. And my plan is that I'm going to first build the upper frame, and then we're going to do the 3 parts that connect everything up. We're going to add it here on top of each of these pillars here, and then finally settle down the top element and connect everything. So that's what I want to do. And for those of you that didn't manage to come last week to the stream, I will briefly show you how everything is connected. So this connection, or this whole frame assembly, in the end will look like this. So the purpose of this build is to have a modular enclosure for your 3D printer. And you can basically build it as you want. So you can have 3D printed walls. You can also have acrylic panels closing it. For now, my first iteration of the build will be like this. So we're gonna have acrylic panels back, top, left, right, and acrylic front doors. And in the next iteration of the build, I will probably try out this side toolkit mount, which is going to replace one of the acrylic side panels. So we can mount some stuff to the side of this, enclosure. And yeah, of course, the purpose is to be printing materials with a 3D printer that's normally not enclosed, like an Ender 3 or a Prusa Mark 3, Mark 4. So you can print ABS and ASA and other stuff with any kind of 3D printer. And the other alternative way how to use it is probably, I think they have not a picture. I mean, these are the other panels that you can alternatively print. So you can also choose to not print or not use acrylic panels. You can also print basically 3D printed panels and close it up completely. I want to see my 3D printer, so that's why I have chosen kind of this version. What you can also, of course, do is not only FDM printers will work with this, but you can also put an SLA printer, a resin printer inside, and maybe together with a wash and cure machine. And that means you will have a way to ventilate out or filter the air that is in this enclosure by adding some hole here at the back and adding some, I think it's, you can see it here, some kind of hose adapter to the back panel, so you can ventilate out the air from this case. And then you can definitely have it running out of your garage and print something like SLA, resin printing in this case, or ASA, which is also highly recommended that you ventilate out the air and that you're not just leaving it inside, because at the end, you're still gonna breathe the stuff in as soon as you open it. That's why you want to, for certain materials, you definitely want to ventilate this, and that's very easy because you can just add this kind of hole in the back, and then you can make it bigger or smaller depending on the system that you want to use to ventilate or filter the air. So that's the purpose of this thing. And there is very nice instructions coming with it. As you can see, it's not free. I have bought the STL license for this in the Kickstarter campaign by Printable Accessories. If you say, but this is too expensive for me, I don't want to pay 85 euros for STL files for such a case, this is definitely a good argument. For me, it was not questioned because it was, I think I paid 40 bucks or something, and it is super flexible. You can build any kind of size, and there is really detailed instructions coming with it. So I think it's kind of worth it, but there's also alternative stuff out there, of course, that's kind of similar, but I still should choose to build this one. Here you see how this comes together. What we are doing at the moment is building the frame, and we started with the bottom section, bottom frame, which already is done, and then we're continuing now to build the top frame, which is built very similar, and then we are connecting everything together. So I'll show you the small connectors, pieces, how they work, and how this all comes together. Just need to remember that we need at least one Allen key. So we have all the tools here. And we are starting with the corner sections for the top frame. So how this comes together. We have one of the corners here, and then we need another connector piece, which is shaped slightly different than the rest. It has this little, yeah, I think support, you could call it, to make it more sturdy. And basically it just comes together like this, and then you need a connector piece. And the connector pieces are used to have two screws going through both parts, connecting them and holding them together. And there is two hex nuts going in there, and that's how it's basically holding together. So the hex nuts go into this part. So there's a little slide-in slot here where the hex nut goes in. Just push it in, and then you can basically just have a screw going here, and then it's basically pressing this part together, holding the whole thing here in place. There's a second hex nut going in, and finally you just push this. Basically take it, and this is where the parts need to be connected, and we're just pushing this over, just sliding it over. Now it's theoretically already connected and can't move so far. And now we have two screws going in here in these two holes for the connector part, holding this together very much, very sturdily. So let's see. And I'm not going to show you this every single time. I'm just going to continue to build in the next couple of minutes. We're going to see this coming together. If I'm not dropping my screws all the time, of course, then it will work. So there you go. One screw is in this little slot here. You just have to fix it in place. And now with the first one already, it is impossible to take these parts apart, because there is also a connector hole, so it's not moving anymore. And the second one is just to make it even sturdier, I guess, and not moving anywhere. So, who has dropped in so far? Who is in the chat? I see Pantry72. Hey, welcome to the stream. Welcome. Who else has joined? Evo Clark, Drager AZ. Welcome to the stream. Good to have you. I hope you're enjoying what we're building here. We're building this huge 3D printer enclosure. And at least my goal for tonight is two things. We want to build the frame so it's complete. And we also want to print a few more parts. So at least we want to start printing a couple of the parts. Now my first attempt to print these acrylic panel holders was unsuccessful. Because I kind of misoriented, or I did not put it in the right orientation. At least I think we need to figure out how to orient it correctly. There was no guidance on how to print this. One of the problems I see with this part is it has this slot here where the acrylic panel is going in, and that doesn't have supports, but I also try to print some support here, for example, here on the side for these holes. And I have the part printed, and it was super hard to take the support from it, even though I just painted the support on the corner, and still it was effectively impossible to. So it's like not much support here, and it's even not going in completely, but still it kind of was impossible to remove it because it still went inside. That's what I don't want. So my idea, since I was looking into the manual and there is some support suggestions how to print parts. Now what they have done here is they have oriented this also the same way, put it basically upside down, and they basically suggest that we use support here. However, I think this is maybe not the best orientation for this part. I can imagine that printing it just the other way around might be working, or maybe we've just tried to print it 90-degree angle. I think that is something that I want to try. So let's go. So we could try to arrange it like this. This is risky. This is definitely risky. But my best guess is that this could work to avoid any kind of unnecessary support for the slot section here. And the only thing that we will probably need is some support somewhere up here. So we have some kind of tree support holding this somewhere in the middle section, so it is not falling down, or it's not warping. At least it is worth a try to print it like that. I think it's definitely something that we should try. Regarding the orientation, I would also like to probably, we want to put it down again. We want to have it oriented parallel to the bed movement. So like this, ideally. And then we're going to put it on this side, because then the bed is moving back and forth in this direction, and I hope it is less likely to detach this way. This is just I think this is much better. So what we can do, we can figure out how the support will look like with this kind of thing. So it's already like supporting this section, so it is still question, is it enough, or will we maybe need to support it differently? But I think I'm going to delete all of the support first and then start again from scratch. So let me see how we can delete all of the support. Probably the easiest is just to add the part one more time. And this is how it suggests to print it in the first place. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I mean, this could be something. This is the initial STL file orientation, but I have my doubts that this is actually going to work. I mean, we can try, but we definitely need to support it here. And what I don't want to put the support in this hole. So I'm definitely going to paint support. If I would do it like this, I would paint some support here and maybe some support over there, but not more. And then also go for a tree. This could work. We want to do tree manual. I think we don't need support here. This is just so small that it's probably not going to create any issues. This is something that could work. Tree support slim. I'm not sure how to set it to slim. Tree slim, yeah, this could work. We recommend using it with 0 interface layers, 0 top distance, 2 walls. I hope this setting only affects the actual support. This can work, if I'm not wrong. Good chance that this is going to work. At least I think we can risk it and try it as a single element. So we have less retractions, we have less chances that the nozzle is going to push it and tilt it over. Why is it taking so long? This is so complex in terms of rendering this, I'm not sure. But again, I think that we do not need support here for these holes and also not for this one here. It's such a small thing, such a small hole that it's probably going to work anyways with the usual bridging. Oh my goodness, this is very slow. Why is it so slow? Oh my goodness. Hey, who is just joined? Andrew M3D, The Jammer, and Irek. Hey, welcome to the stream. So, should we risk this? Should we start printing this? I guess we can risk it. I'm just gonna hop over to the print room where the printer is. Well, all of the parts, by the way, we're printing everything on the Ender 3 V3, not because we cannot print it on other printers, but it is part of my review. So all of the tests basically that I'm doing are, or the results are going to be based also on the results of this project, because I'll be running 8 kilograms of filament through this printer by the end of the project, and that means we have actually something to talk about. So we're uploading this, and I will head over to the workshop. I need to make sure one thing, because the filament spool might tangle around, so I need to avoid that. So I don't know if you can still hear me. Definitely the spool holder. That is going to be mentioned in my review as well. One of the inlet for the PTFE is moving up completely to the top of the frame when this printer is homing and pulling off these 20 centimeters of filament from the spool, and then it's coming down again, and it's very likely that the filament gets tangled very high. Almost there. Just waiting for it to start, so I just want to make sure that we have no problems with the filament spool in the beginning of the print, because it's all very new and going very much to the corners of the spool. or corners is not the right one. There you go. Goes up again, pulls out quite a lot of filament, and then coming down. The best thing is actually to rewind the spool in this situation. So I think we can now leave it. Yeah, this problem with the filament spool holder is going to be part of my review. Because yeah, the fact that the printer movement for the homing procedure is going from the very bottom to the very top of the frame and then back down, unspooling at least 20 centimeters of the filament, because the whole part where the PTFE tube ends is basically just pulling up or moving up. And if you're unlucky, as I have been at least 2 times now, the filament will jump off the spool, even though I have this thing on from Creality that should prevent this material to coming off the spool, but it still can happen. So my best recommendation, and this is also going to be part of my review, of course, is to move the filament spool to a separate spool holder and have another like longer PTFE tube mounted somewhere. So it is not moving, though the end where the filament enters the whole extrusion system is not going to move anywhere, right? So that's I will figure out, maybe this can be mounted to the printer frame at some position where it makes sense, but it definitely needs to be fixed if you wanna run this unattended, which you probably shouldn't. But if you want to start your print at least from remote or something, and you have this kind of fresh spool on it, it can definitely jump off, and then you have 0 results. That's what was in one of my short videos that I've shown you when the print fails. That was basically just the same reason. So JS Moctezuma, hello superfan of your videos. Thank you, appreciate that. Quick question, I have an Ender V3 KE, any recommendation for a better slicer and its configuration? Well, I can highly recommend for all of you who might be using an Ender 3 V3 SE, KE, the K1, K1 Max, K1C, all of these printers that are running Clipper, and honestly, every Creality printer out there, highly recommend that you switch to Orca Slicer, because the good thing, or what I like so much about Orca Slicer, it already supports the Ender 3 V3 right now, at least in the public beta of 2.1. So they were super quick to add this printer to the software. It's open source, it's free, it supports all Creality printer, it supports, I mean, I can show you the list. It is unbelievable how many printers are supported. And another good part about this program is it basically takes all the best from Bamboo Slicer and Prusa Slicer and puts it into this program. And if you have bamboo printers, you can also control them from Orca Slicer because it supports network print. The only downside, or that's not downside, it's just one thing to know about Orca Slicer together with any of these printers from Creality that are currently running Clipper. So again, it's the Ender 3 V3 KE, not the SE that doesn't run Clipper, but the KE, the K1, the K1 Max, the K1C currently. You need to run a script on the printer using a remote terminal, which you can just use if you agree to I think it's on the printer menu somewhere in the configuration. You have to agree that you want root access to this printer, and then you run one script on the printer, which I will show. I will make a video about this procedure. It's actually super simple, but I think it needs some explanation. You run the script on the printer, and then you open up basically the printer to the world, not to the world, but to your local network and any kind of program that can connect to Octoprint actually. So the protocol, the communication protocol that is used is Octoprint's protocol. So any app that you've been using to control Octoprint that's freely available can then control these printers, and Orca Slicer can also print. Prusa Slicer can connect to the printer, Orca Slicer can connect to the printer. Even Cura can connect to the printer. So once you have done that, this script execution on the printer, you can basically use all of the other slicer programs to connect to your Creality Clipper printers. And that's something that requires a little bit guidance. I have shown you how to do this in one of the other videos already. I have to look it up where it was. It was one of the last live streams. But I'm gonna decouple this section and have it as a separate video. I guess it's better. But yeah, we can run through the procedure once more in very soon. And I will publish that for you as a separate video. So we have started printing this. Another side effect is that you can also see the printer here. So you can also, like once you have this script executed, you can switch over in Orca Slicer and see what's happening on your printer. Much more detail, by the way, than with Creality Print. A lot more data to see here, and a much more control, right? You can change configurations that you cannot change normally, and that is, if you're interested, of course. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that, but it's giving you a much more sophisticated access to your printer. Great, so we can, I have no camera here on the printer, but we can see it with the workshop camera. And I hope that this goes well. I hope that it doesn't tilt over and detaches from the build plate. So what I want to do now, while this is printing, we want to continue building our upper section. So I will just continue building the corner elements, and you just scream at me if you want to ask a question. Thanks for saying like you configured the printers by watching my videos. I love that. Of course, I like that people are actually using the content I'm making. All good. All good with the English. We're all in the same boat, right? I'm German. I mean, my native language is also not English, and sometimes I'm trying to sound more sophisticated. Sometimes I don't, because I don't know, I'm tired or something. And I might sound more German than in the end. Doesn't matter. As long as you can understand what I'm saying, you're all good. So, second corner, 2 more to go then, and then we are connecting those. First thing is I will complete the upper frame, so the upper square, and then we'll connect the rest. So let's do this. What I like about this, once you get to understand how these parts come together, it is actually, you don't need the manual anymore, honestly. It's becoming very simple at some point, because you know how the things come together, and it's not complicated. So again, I guess it is very simple and it's still very effective. You can design your own enclosure size. You can select how many elements you want in each direction. For this big frame, and you will see this is a very large frame because I want to be able to put in one of my bigger printers as well. So I'm not going to only target this build for the smaller Ender printers, but also for something like the Bamboo A1, which is a little bit bigger. And so it will be around about 8 kilogram of PLA material. So it's not going to be something fancy in terms of ABS or hard to print stuff. So it's going to be PLA only. Why PLA? Some of you have asked me last time, why don't you use ABS, for example, because of the fact this is an enclosure and it might get quite warm inside. So honestly, I have been checking the print chamber temperatures of, for example, the K1C and also my Creality, my Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon, and at no point it gets warmer than 40 to 45 degrees inside. So, I mean, that means we are still very much below any kind of melting or at least softening temperature for the materials that we're using here. So I see no risk in that. And it's also the recommended material for this build. You could, of course, say, I want to be on the super safe side and I want to print even with higher chamber temperature. Then you might choose something else. But again, maybe you don't have the printer for that yet. And so that's kind of the problem that a lot of people will have, that they don't have a printer that can print something like ABS properly in, for example, especially these parts, which are quite large, might get warped on a normal printer. And that's why it's probably better if you stick to the recommended parts. Again, it is also the cheapest way to do it, right? So PLA is very affordable. Other materials might be more expensive. And I think it is really definitely, I think it's not worth it. There's not such a use case for a lot of people, because the other purpose of this case is it's not only about printing high temperature material that shouldn't warp, but it's also if you have a garage and you have your printer outside of the house effectively and it's cold in your garage or in your workshop in the winter or something, and you still want to run your printer and have kind of a temperature enclosure, then this makes total sense, even if you're printing other materials like PLA. So I would personally see it very much that a lot of you will probably not print so much ABS, but more likely you have concerns about ventilation. Maybe you also want to do SLA printing, which is toxic if it is. And so you probably want to ventilate where the printer is. And that's why I think it's in that regard, going to be very flexible. And if I ever go back to SLA printing, honestly, I will definitely use this case to put the SLA printer in and have some proper ventilation. So that's also why I want to have that. So I still need to remove some supports here. Forgot about that, but no big deal. Have you completely moved away from playing with Marlin firmware? Yeah, probably yes. I haven't touched the Marlin source code since probably 1 year now. All of the printers that I still have, which have currently still Marlin running, I'm going to switch over to Clipper. The interesting part for me was, or the motivation like initially I wasn't like I will switch everything to Clipper, but I figured at some point that some of the older printers don't have enough RAM anymore for running the latest versions of Marlin. And I always had to find kind of a workaround for enabling or disabling features that I wanted for the printer. And so at one point, and that was the initial kickoff for my Clipper experience, I had the SV06 Plus. Or more specifically the SV06 and then the SV06 Plus. And then with the SV06, I figured out, okay, I want the SV06 is running Marlin, and it just fits on the mainboard. So it was a very restricted build that Sobol created. And then they also made this weird decision on the SV06 to give it half the memory of a normal Creality printer. So the mainboard looks very similar to the Creality mainboard, but it has half memory. And so it is even more restricted what you can put on there in terms of features for Marlin. And so I wanted, for example, to just enable some features like a filament sensor, and ran into all kinds of weird issues when I started to understand that the printer is actually running into a memory problem. And so the only way out for me was either to disable that or going for Clipper. And so I said, okay, let's give us finally, after so many years, when people told me you need to try Clipper, I finally tried it, and I was kind of I was working my way into, I was learning how to use it. I was trying to understand the configuration and ran into various kind of roadblocks, but in the end I understood what I had to do, and in the end it turned out that it's actually something quite easy to do, right? If you finally grasp how it works and how you have to start and where you look for examples and stuff, and where you can find help and community and stuff. And so in the end it turned out that running Clipper on the Sobol SV06 and having, of course, you need another external computer like a Raspberry Pi. But if you have all that in place, it's mind-blowing, honestly. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it is just the fact that you compile this firmware only once, essentially, put it on the printer, and then never touch that again. And instead, you have configuration files that you can just change and try out something. Like I don't know, you want to change the print volume of the printer by 2 millimeters because you figured that you can leverage 2 more millimeters on the print bed, or you want to switch to another sensor or something, and you just enter that into the config file, save the file, and then you're done, right? And it works. It's like you don't have to compile and install firmware, right? You just configure the stuff and that's it. And then you have also these kind of add-ons which can just be installed with scripts and macros. And if you say, I want some macro that does a start procedure, or just change that, you just do it, and that's it, right? You don't have to think about software installation every single time you want to change something. And I mean, it's just one aspect of the thing, and that was so mind-blowing to me that I was like, okay, probably never going to look back. I mean, Marlin still has its place because you don't need additional external hardware, right? So your printer can effectively, you can have Marlin running on your printer, and it is a completely, let's say, standalone device. With Clipper, you always need this kind of external compute power, like a Raspberry Pi or even an older computer will do as well, to drive the actual print process. Without it, it's basically stupid. Nothing will work without this external device. But this is the only downside, right? So that's the only, that's probably why there is still some printers out there coming to the market today in these times, and which don't run Clipper, which still have Marlin. My best guess is that we don't see any of these printers anymore in the next 12 months. So by the next, within the next 12 months, I don't see any new printers coming to the market that run Marlin firmware. My best guess, honestly. Yeah. The old 8 bits, the good part is you can still use, that's the crazy part. I could now go back and take my old ANET A8 and install Clipper on it, and it would be immediately become a much better printer, right? Because I could configure it more easily, and I could actually enable features that couldn't be running on this old 8-bit mainboard, right? Currently I would be stuck on this old printer with Marlin 1.1.9, which is a super old version, and I don't even know how would it still work? Would it still compile on a newer software framework? So you would have to do all kinds of experiments to figure out how to compile it by today. But with Clipper, I just configure the right processor type, the right type of memory. I would just, at least, I would flash it once. And I mean, this is something that we can do, right? I still have this printer here. We could try to revive the ANET with Clipper. That's probably worth an experiment. Steve Smith, the only thing I don't like about Clipper is it's not instant. So I don't know what you mean with instant. Maybe you mean it can be running without, it just runs on the printer. So it's like something independent from other programs or other software, which I think, yes. Yeah. Any commands you do changes like baby stepping. Why is it not like, why is that better with Marlin? I don't really understand. Why is it not instant? Any commands you do changes like baby stepping. Well, honestly, if you change something on Clipper, let's say you do bit leveling, right? You do your 9-point bit leveling on Clipper. What happens is that Clipper takes this information once the bit leveling is done. It stores this into memory, like on the Raspberry Pi. Basically, it has it in memory, and then it tells you, do you want to save this? And if you do, then it updates the configuration file and you restart it, and then it's basically saved there, and it cannot get lost anymore. So, I mean, for me, that is good enough. That is like instant enough in terms of how it affects the print. And if you do something mid-print, for example, if you change the Z offset during the print process, it will also remember it during the print process. And at the end of the print, it will ask you if you want to change or if you want to save what you did. So if you do baby stepping during a Clipper print, it will ask you at the end of the print whether you want to save that new Z offset. So for me, that sounds great. In Marlin, you can do the same while you are printing. You can also do the baby steps. But if I'm not wrong, you have to save it to the EEPROM as well, right? So you have to push it to the EEPROM. And one thing that you shouldn't forget, almost every single time, if you do a configuration change with Marlin, let's say you enable a feature and you have, let's say you have saved a couple of things into the EEPROM of the printer, which is basically just the storage for saving settings, and you change the configuration of Marlin, what will happen in, I don't know, 9 of 10 cases, Marlin will tell you when the printer is restarting, sorry, you have to reset your EEPROM. It's not working with this software version anymore. And so you're losing all of the settings that you have made into the EEPROM, and you definitely have to have a place where you store them. So you need to write them down effectively and remember, for example, the last set offset that you had, unless you want to do everything one more time, right? So it is, with Clipper that won't happen because you have the config files. And even if you enable a new feature, that doesn't mean that you have to lose your config files. They are just there, right? So it's, I think from that perspective, for me, that sounds like an improvement, right? So it's not, it's, yeah. And you can back up your stuff, right? And it makes backups by itself. So if you change something, it will create a backup of your config file. And if you figure out that you made a mistake or kind of deleted something, you can always revert to the last version, which is, with Marlin, you have to keep track of your config files using GitHub, or, I don't know, copy the files and do this manually. And there it's kind of already automated for you, so you don't have to worry. So I see that. I mean, this is, if you look into the details, you will figure that a lot of stuff is very much, I think, more modernized than with Marlin. It waits until the current process is completed. Marlin changes baby stepping straight away as you adjust it. Well, I don't know, I mean, baby stepping for me is live set offset adjustment, right? So during the print, you want to move the nozzle up and down. And as far as I've seen, when I've been using at least the other printers that don't have this complete auto calibration feature, like the Sovol, as soon as I basically changed the Z offset in the live print, it was, I don't know how delayed that was, but it was almost immediately stepping up or stepping down. So I don't know how much delay there is with Clipper, how many cycles it needs to process that, but it will definitely do it during the print. So you can mid-print just go and fiddle around with the Z offset. Might be that Marlin is more instant in a way that it does it immediately, and with Clipper there might be, I don't know how many millimeters of filament of delay, but still you can do that. And the question will be, is this so? Is this how much of a difference is this going to make for you? I think you just have to try it and see. I was also hesitating for, I don't know, probably 2-3 years to even look at Clipper, right? So I kind of refused to go that direction because I was familiar with Marlin and I knew basically all of the configs and knew how to do stuff, and didn't see any need for me to step into this. But then I realized, okay, there is a point where it is unavoidable, and from there kind of never looked back. That's reality. So almost done here. Yeah, good point. I mean, it takes a while to get used to stuff. And that's why I didn't go that path for such a long time. That's probably why I did not want to look at it, because I knew to get the Sovol running, it would take me a couple of days to understand everything. On the other side, it was for me very much a mystery how this problem came up with the memory of the printer. So why it basically just ran into some weird issues randomly during the prints. And to figure out that the only solution to get over this problem is to reduce the size of the program took me, I mean, I really had conversations with Marlin people on the Discord. I went back and forth. It took me probably 2 to 3 days to figure out the root cause of the problem with Marlin. And so it was already 2-3 days lost for me. And so I said, don't care anymore. I'm just going to do something different. I need a solution, and I didn't see that this would take me anywhere. Right, so that's why I started in the first place. So last piece here. I think then we're good to go. So let's clean up the garbage. Good. Where's my little trash bin? There we go. Good evening, Alexander. Alexander, not doing the giveaway tonight. It's happening next week. Hello, hello. Hey, bluefish colors. Yeah. You love them? I mean, I have no idea how many I have. Probably must be 10 or something. My wife recently told me that I need to reduce my printers to 5 or 6. Currently it's around about 15 3D printers. Not everything is used, of course, but it's too many, and that's why we're doing giveaways. Because I have to get rid of some stuff here. So, what is the top? What is the top? That is a very, very good question. I want to figure out which part is. How do we need to orient this? We want to see. Okay, so the top. Okay, we have this. The L-shaped part always needs to go face down. How is it coming together for the top? Okay, so I guess we can take a look at the guide. So what we want to have in the end is facing up. We want to have this. We want to have the cavity facing up. So we have for the top part, these pieces are, this is the counterpart. So this is the opposite part where we have this little flange here coming out, and we want the top section, where's the top section? Top section needs to be just the reverse, like that. Okay, so let's just have it oriented correctly like this. And then we're going to start with the first section, connecting them together. And a couple of connectors. So let's start. We always need 3 in each direction. Judging by the ringing plastic sound, so yes, this is PLA, of course. This is PLA. It's the easiest to print, and it's totally fine for this build. Good enough, and the cheapest option. By the way, I want to let you know that all of the filament has been sponsored by 3D Jake. So I promised them to mention this because they are sponsoring this video. They have sent me 8 kilograms of filament in different colors. So they have sent me the silver filament, and we are printing some parts with red PLA. So all of the accent parts and the border sections, the decorations for this are going to be red. And then we have some more blue and yellow filament for like future things like the side tool mount. So thank you 3D Jake for sponsoring this. We have a little deal running. Currently they have a summer sale, so everything is, I think, at least 10% off or even 20% for some stuff. Link is down in the description. And I also have a voucher code for you, so you can get everything that is not reduced 5% cheaper if you use my voucher code that is in the video description. So, and they also ship basically just international and also to Germany. So there's 2 different links in the video description. One is for Germany only, and the other is for the international shop. So if you want to get some stuff like filament or any other printer accessories, printer parts, printers, and filament, check it out. I think I've been ordering like tons of stuff from them. It's currently my favorite shop because they are very much, from a price perspective, quite good, and they are very fast to ship stuff. Usually ship on the same day. So my experiences with 3D Jake are good. And yeah, thanks again for sponsoring the video. Check out the code in the description and let me know what you think. So let's get started with this first connector here for the top section. Great, so first one is done. I'm going to add 2 more in this direction. And at some point, since this is quite huge, we need to figure out how to bring it together, because it's probably the more difficult part once this is getting really huge, to have it still handle this thing. It still looks quite small, but it is really, really huge. Like, I will show it to you once we have the top part done, and you will realize that it's kind of a monster. But yeah, my personal choice, of course, because I wanted something that is more usable with bigger stuff. You don't have to do such a huge enclosure, of course, if you want to print something like this. But I thought, my thinking was, if I want to have it usable for different use cases, like also SLA, and maybe putting some wash and cure machine together with the SLA printer in this thing, then I need more space. So that's why I decided that I will go with the bigger version. And you could even make it larger. The good thing is also you can basically make the shape as you want. So you can have it deeper, higher, wider, as you want. You just use a different number of elements, and that's already it, and everything else fits together. So it's very easy to do. So let's see, we have this one. This is the first or the second corner. How to orient. So we are, let me see, this is facing up. Should be this way, if I'm not wrong. We want to have this, at least one of this facing up. Yeah, this should be working. I think it's not symmetrical. Does it have to be? I don't know, honestly. It should probably be. It should probably be symmetric, but it's for some reason it's not. Maybe I have made some mistake here. Let me see if this works better. From their picture, at least it looks like that everything is symmetrical. But is it maybe misleading? Pair the top frame. All flat surfaces are up as shown. All flat surfaces are up. Maybe that was my mistake. That the flat surface. Yeah, I have to turn it, of course. Okay, I made the mistake here. I made the mistake. So this is the actual orientation. This is the flat side. The flat side is up. So this is the correct. Now we can turn it to have an easier access. Yeah, I was just kind of in the wrong spot, honestly. So don't forget to reorient it afterwards. So now we have to do this just the other way around. Otherwise we cannot reach the screw holes. You see from the small camera image that it's already pretty huge. So, flat side up. We are growing to the side. Let's have this corner here. Let's continue on this section here, over here. So this is this next side panel. What is going on in chat? Alexander, yeah, Alexander is a 3D Jake has an excellent online store. Totally agree. I think the reason why I really come back to them is the choice of parts is really good. So they have also spare parts for the 3D printers, which with other shops that's not the normal. Sometimes they have a really great choice of 3D printers, so they have all kinds of brands, but they also really have almost everything that you need. I didn't actually have to search for stuff that I didn't find there. Replacement parts, spare parts for the printers, all kinds of upgrade stuff. So it is really what keeps me coming back is the selection that you have, so many options, and yeah, reasonable pricing. I would say it's not expensive. If you look on Amazon, stuff is usually not cheaper, and unless you look for this, I don't know, non-branded stuff, maybe you find something there, but usually if you look for original parts or original spare parts, it is definitely a good option. And then the other thing is shipping. I had some projects going on last year where I was out of filament at some day, and I was desperately looking for a way to order stuff that comes, and the only option was Amazon, and they didn't have the filament that I wanted. And 3D Jake, and I was ordering, and it was supposed to arrive 2 days later, and actually arrived the day later, and it was like, thank you very much, that saved my project. That's why at some point I reached out to them and said, hey guys, do you want to sponsor a project that I'm doing? And I'm happy to tell you that they were super open about discussing different projects, ideas, and things that we could do in the future. So I'm really happy. Let's see. This is the next one. I thought your wife said reduce the size and you are building the largest enclosure so far. Yeah. What was the question here? 3 in each direction for width and depth, more for height. No, I'm using the same in each direction. It is going to be, there's a calculator here that makes the figuring out how many elements you need. So that calculator, where is it? I think it's somewhere here. Where is it? Standard size plus and calculator, that's it. So you can figure out how many elements you need by, I think is this, where do I enter the stuff? I don't know. Was it somewhere here? I think this is the calculator. So yeah, the size of this will be 6571 in millimeters. 600, 600, 700. So it's a little bit higher. Why is it higher? I think in the vertical orientation or the vertical direction, it is a little bit higher because it doesn't have a bottom. So you have a little bit more space inside of the enclosure because you can put the printer on the table, and that is what you're gaining in terms of the size. Inside there's a little bit more space because you're putting it on the table, and you're gaining a couple more centimeters here. And I think also that the top element is a couple centimeters higher. So you're overall gaining around about 10 centimeters in height. Even though you have the same number of elements in each direction, it still gives you more height. So next part, we have already 3 connectors here. So this is the last one. Then we have another corner coming. So let's do this. So it's getting bigger and bigger. I'm a little afraid if this is still manageable at some point. But we'll see. I guess it will work. So this is the third one. Now we are getting another corner in. Can we turn this? My table is a little bit too small for this, I guess, at some point. Gonna run out of space. So next connector for the corner. Tricky part with these connector pieces is that there is only one slot where the M4 nut is held in place, but the second one is kind of falling out. If you're not orienting it correctly, then you would definitely have some problem. Or you need a screwdriver to hold it in place. So it's not falling out until you have it, if you slide it over. And yeah, that's, I see, this is already, this might get difficult now. Maybe I should take this out one more time. The orientation is a little bit of a problem if you're trying to put this together and you are doing this in the wrong orientation. You have to screw from the short end, and now I'm turning it so I can screw from this side. This is always to remember. This is otherwise going to be very difficult. So have the right orientation like this. Don't fall out. So not having the nut falling out, of course, is one of the things. So we could glue this in. I don't want to, honestly. Don't want to put in the effort of gluing my hex nuts in this, but I will try to keep it in place using the screwdriver until it fits in. Does it? No, it doesn't. Why not? Last time it worked. Why did it work last time and now this is difficult? Why is it so difficult? Shouldn't be. So let's try again with the screwdriver. Yeah, so it's done. So some effort, but nothing severe. So we're good now. At some point this is going to be so big that it's not going to be, it's rather impossible to turn this to each side all the time. So it is definitely, at some point you have to work with it as it is. Zarant, oh my goodness, we haven't met for a while, I guess. Yeah, how's life? For me, it is super busy. I'm actually happy that I can still do the live streams, to be honest. Last week I was helping my father-in-law with moving to a new apartment. Lots of work besides that, so my job is currently quite demanding in terms of not much time to think about other stuff. Super tired in the evening, and so I'm actually happy that I found the format of the live stream to be something that I can come back every single week, and I don't have to do so much preparation and post-production, especially post-production. So that keeps me happy, because we can talk, we can meet, and we can still do some stuff, but my amount of time investment is a little bit less than usual, because it's just us at the live stream, basically. Yeah. So same here, work, and not much time for anything else. That's my day. So let's try. I think it's getting better at this, but not yet. Every single time is not yet working, but we're getting there. Oh my goodness, why is this falling? Come on. So. Keep the hex nut in the place. Come on. Okay. Sarah, you worked a lot and you quit your job. Oh my goodness. You're looking for a new job. Oh my goodness. What job are you looking for? Can you tell us? What are you doing and what do you want to work? I'm interested. Quitting your job is really something that's probably scary, but also brave, right? If you have no immediate plan. And Alexander is also on the edge, overworked and underpaid. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Sounds like you're desperately looking for something. So what are you guys looking for? What kind of job are you searching? So Sarah, and I don't know, I don't know too much about what I don't remember if you have told me, so I'm sorry. But you don't have to tell if you don't want to. Just curious, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a specific company or more like a specific type of job? You are a Linux administrator by trade and get so many interviews in 1 week. So two companies want to have you for round 2. That sounds great. That sounds great, honestly. Sounds like you have a sounds like you have a plan. That sounds awesome. I mean, having at least 2 options sounds rather comfortable. You would be working for the government. Oh my goodness. I mean, that's probably good because it's quite safe if you get the job. So, short break. So, my goodness, this is so many parts. We are getting there. Well, still, let me put in this last one here. Yeah, good to go. I hope that I printed enough connectors. If not, we have to run another print job now for connectors. By the way, we totally forgot to look for the prints. I mean, that doesn't look too bad, honestly. The print that we started earlier sounds rather good. This looks good. I guess that it will not tilt at this point anymore, as it seems. That was my biggest fear, that it would eventually tilt and fall from the build plate, because it's, of course, it's very tall and small and very narrow, so to say. So my biggest fear was that it would tilt over, but it seems to be sticking quite well to the build surface, so that's great. So let's see if we can finish this print. Alexander does repairing medical equipment and has 11 years of big box IT experience. Okay. What does big box mean? Maybe I don't get it. What is big box IT? Does it mean big companies? Large corporations? Or what do you mean by that? Servers? Or you mean mainframe systems? Sarand, ordered a K1C on Monday and got it today. It's running non-stop right now. Well, I can definitely say that the K1C it's not bad. It's a fairly decent printer, so it can basically handle all the stuff that I've thrown it in so far. Of course, it doesn't have this multicolor option, but it's also, I think it's sometimes overhyped at the moment. Everyone wants to do that, and in the end, people figure out that they 99% of time print only one color. Let's be honest. Yeah, but yeah. We'll get the CFS as soon as it's available for the K1C. The color, does it really come for the K1C? I'm not sure if Creality is actually doing that, but yeah, I would be happily surprised to see this as an option for the K1C, so an aftermarket or optional add-on. I'm still curious how they're gonna pull this off, because it's, I mean, most likely gonna be something that you can connect to USB or so, because by now there's no dedicated connector for this on the printer, so nothing like the Bamboos have. There's a special port just for the multicolor AMS. So I'm curious how Creality intends to do this, if at all, for the K1C, right? Interested. So let's see. Let's hope that Creality maybe sends it to me as soon as I have done the, probably as soon as I have done the review on the V3. So we can talk about that at some point. How to continue with the Creality partnership, I have no idea, honestly. And my time is also very limited, so I'd rather, I don't know how many printer reviews I can do this year anymore. I think I'm gonna reduce it a bit, because it is also not the main purpose, right? So it's not what I really love to do, is not reviewing stuff or reviewing 3D printers. It's more using the 3D printers and doing some interesting projects like this. So I'd rather have some good reason to, I mean, as soon as I have a very, very good reason and exciting project for multicolor or multi-material printing, I would say, yeah, why not? Why not try it out and figure out if it's actually worth it. So I see the printer is performing, and we'll probably deliver this part in a couple of minutes. And we can continue. Oh my goodness, this is what you do not want. Having some screw falling into this frame. Okay, so last connector piece for this huge thing, at least for the top section, is done. I think now you can imagine how big this is going to be. So I can't actually zoom out more. So this is the size. So in centimeters, 60-ish centimeters, even bigger, because it's what I've told you here is the inner size, right? That is 60 centimeters, not the outside. The outside is even bigger. Creality confirmed that it's compatible to the K1, K1C, K1 Max, Ender 3 V3 KA, and Ender 3 V3. That's all the clipper printers essentially. That's a lot of promised background compatibility. As a tech, I find it hard to believe. Let's see. I mean, let's see how it performs. I'm definitely, if that is true, I will reach out to Creality if they can send this. At some point, we can try it out. So I'm really interested. I feel at home. No, 1,000 of cables. You like to work with cables, I guess. Okay. So what I like to do now, actually, it doesn't matter in which direction we do it, which one we do first. We can also start at the top and add all of the connectors to the top and then to the bottom. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I will just continue adding the elements here on the side. And then we'll put it together. So we're getting there. We have still, let me briefly calculate this. We still have how many? 12 parts, 12 elements for this. 12 elements to connect, and then we are going to add the bottom to this whole frame. So still 12 things to connect, and then we're good. Having it oriented this way is actually easier, because now I can just slide it over. Can be quite quick with this. Just have to figure out, have I printed enough connectors and these little connector pieces. Do I have enough of that? Honestly, I did not exactly count. I think I printed out 50-ish of, I think there was a recommendation to have 50 printed, or 48. I hope this is still enough. So let me briefly check. We need 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No, it should be good. Should be good. So this one is gone. We have the next corner. I talked to the people on the Creality Discord too. They confirmed it's there too. That was a huge point why I got the K1C and not the P1S combo. Okay. Yeah, I think overall it sounds more affordable from Creality. However, I must also say that everything that Creality does is, yeah, it might be cheaper, but it also has its quirks. Like, so you have to, like, for example, to unleash the full potential of Clipper on any of these printers, you have to basically modify the Clipper software with the script that we've seen, that I've shown you already. And that is someone from the open source community that did that. So it's like, from my point of view, yes, the K1C, for example, it works. But really to get everything from this printer that you would normally want and that you might get just from Bamboo Lab without any of the, say, manual modifications, then you might consider that, right? You might think about it. That is for people like us, we are kind of experienced with modifying the stuff. That might not be an issue. But if you want the printer just for the sake of getting it, unboxing it, and then it needs to work and it needs to do all of the stuff, or it should do all of the stuff without you having to be the absolute expert or being able to modify firmware stuff, then I don't know. I'm not too convinced that this is where Creality is already. I think they're still somewhat in the middle between the do-it-yourself and the end consumer. And I think they want to be with the end consumer. So with the absolute beginners, so to say, which have no idea how stuff works and just getting them happy, that's what they want to be, or where they want to be, but I think they're not there yet. And that's where Bamboo Lab honestly is already. So don't want to hype Bamboo Lab, but I think they have just like, there is this comparison of Bamboo Lab and Apple, and I think this is not so far from the truth. Yeah, closed source. The thing is with closed source, there's a point, right? There's a point to having open source for sure. That's why people are in the do-it-yourself space. I totally get that, and I'm happy with open source. I really love it, and I love that Creality is open sourcing stuff and giving you access to the printer's firmware and letting you root the printer basically and change everything. But think about the target audience, right? If you weren't the target audience, but your grandpa would be, or your grandma, if you would try to give it to them, then this would be a very hard sell, honestly. And so if you only look at yourself and say, yeah, I am able to do it, I'm the expert, or I'm proficient with the technology, then of course you're happy with open source. But the question is, would your grandpa actually ask for this and ask for open source and stuff? Would he even care about it? Right? I'm not saying that people shouldn't care about open source. I'm more saying, what is their primary concern when they buy? Like, would you care for open sourcing your car? Right? People want to drive cars. They want to get from A to B. They don't care about the software on the car system to be open source, right? And it wouldn't change probably wouldn't change anything for them if they knew that it is running Linux or it is running, anything else, right? That is the question. Like you and I, you definitely care about that. But again, who is the target audience? And if you think about that, you will definitely see there is a difference between those brands on who they are trying to target. So we have one element to go. yeah, I mean, customization, that's the good point. Like we want to customize stuff, and that's why like we do modify our 3D printers is we want to customize, we want to modify, we want to add stuff and make it our own. And that's definitely something where open source is a good reason why we want open source. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan, and I think that's, for me, it is an important factor. That's why I think for me, Creality is an option. I accept that things aren't perfect, and maybe I have to do something about it, and I have to modify a little bit here and there and add something. And so I'm not worried about that. And in the end, I might have something that is super affordable and is almost perfect, right? So it's like, I think that's great. But there is like, you have to look at both sides where you want to be with your company. So let's see, can we bring this together? Now it gets interesting. Now it gets really interesting. So this is, oh my goodness, I hit my camera. Does this fit together? Yes. So now we have 4 connectors to do. I think now we're getting a glimpse of the size. It's much better understandable now how big this thing is. Oh my goodness, this is really large. So let's connect this. Finally. Come on, don't fall out. My hex nut here. So 1. So, Alexander, my car is modded at the moment. I'm installing BMW factory diagnose tool on my laptop, 400 gigabyte. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's great, because then you can really read out every single error and stuff. That's great. Sarah, she printed out the side spool holder and side mount filament sensor, but I didn't have to. This is about the K1C, right? The K1C with the 0.29 firmware seems pretty solid. I don't even need the eraser for the lid, it just works. Yeah, I think so far it's a really great printer with the, I think for me with the Clipper upgrades that I did with this modification to install Moonraker and stuff and mainsail, I think it's, for me, it is actually great. So, Clayton, smoking. I'm late. What did he make the frame out of? The frame is completely made from PLA. The brand is it is 3D Jake Eco PLA, which is, from a material perspective, I think it's just right. It's not so brittle. So it is really quite rigid. The other thing that I should mention about this whole print is that I have been using the, I have swapped out the nozzle on the Ender 3v3 to print in with a 0.6 millimeter nozzle, which I think helps with making the part even more robust. Right, because we have thicker. What is happening? We have thicker layers 0.3 millimeter layer height and also like wider layer lines. So it is definitely helping. And also reducing the print speed, not reducing, but reducing the print time, of course, making the print a little bit faster. So we are getting there. We have 2 more connectors. And then we have the cubicle done. And then we can just put 1 printer inside so you can see how much space there is actually for a printer. But we're still missing a lot of parts. We're missing the elements for holding the acrylic panels, which is currently printing. So I think for next week's video stream, we are going to install everything around. So we're going to install the panels, the back panel, side panel, top panel, and the doors. So I'm going definitely have to think about, do I want to cut a hole for a ventilation hose into the back panel? I think I will, because there is already a prepared part that can just be used to connect ventilation hose. It's part of this STL collection. So the last one, and then we are done, my friends. We are done with the frame. Great. So, not sure whether we need more. I think we don't need so many more of these hex nuts. Maybe for some of the add-ons. I don't want to put them into the bag because otherwise it's definitely going to fall from the table at some point. I know myself and I know that this is going to happen. So let's clean up. Good. Now for having a printer in this thing. How big is it actually? So let's put this printer in. This is the Ender 3 V3 KE. Oh my goodness. So of course you don't need the spool holder. So the spool holder has to go for sure. And I mean, you could technically leave it on, but you couldn't fit, you wouldn't be able to fit a filament spool here. It would hit the upper acrylic panel. But what you can do is, you see there is lots of space left. So this is probably not the biggest printer that you can fit in here. We are going to, like in this case, we would be removing the top spool holder. We would be running a PTFE tube into the top panel and have the spool somewhere here on the side. That's why there's a couple of attachment parts available for this thing. You could also put the filament spool inside maybe, because you could keep it, at least it's better to keep it inside to keep it dry. So there is other options like filament spool holder for the inside. So a couple of options here. And definitely you could put a printer that is at least the size of the Bambu Lab A1. You could also fit a P1S in here, or not P1S doesn't make sense, but the P1P, which doesn't have an enclosure. I can also see that you could definitely put an SLA printer and maybe a wash and cure machine in here. There should be enough space for that. So plenty of room. And why is it so deep? Mainly because of the bed slinger issue. Because if you think about it, the bed slinger needs a lot of space. We can turn it so we can see that the issue with bed slingers is Like from this perspective, this printer looks fairly compact, but the truth is you need a lot of room to the back if you don't want to squeeze the cable. And to the front, you also don't have, I mean, you need a lot of overhang. So we still have some room here, right? So the frame glass is ending right here, so we still have some space. But technically, if this thing moves to the very end, to the back, you're almost at the end of the frame. So that's why the bed slinger is probably the worst thing in terms of the usage of space, because it requires so much in the Y direction. From like the rest, it is still pretty compact. So you could actually use a smaller frame. For this printer, we could also probably reduce it by one element in height and I think one element in the, I'm not sure if we could reduce it in the width or something. Maybe we could also maybe use a slightly, one of the elements could be a little bit smaller maybe, and then we could make it a little bit more narrow. But I guess from the height perspective, we could definitely reduce by one. And that's it so far. So that's why bed slingers need more space. If you compare that with the K1C, I mean, think about it. The K1C is not bigger from the, just from the bottom size, I'd say like the bottom area that it uses, than this printer, but it also really never uses more than that. So it doesn't have anything moving out. So that's also an argument why these Core XY printers are better in terms of the usage of space. Absolutely. Yeah, thing is large. You could fit the Prusa XL in there. Yeah, it might be possible. So as I said, I've chosen this kind of size because I wanted something that is flexible for me, that I can use with different printers and different sizes. And potentially, I think my ultimate final usage for this frame is not going to be a bed slinger enclosure, but it is going to be an enclosure for SLA resin printing with a ventilation solution that is keeping the annoyance of the SLA resin, the toxic fumes and the smell and all that stuff. It's going to keep it out of my workshop. That is my main concern when going back to SLA printing, because I tried it a couple of times in the past and it was always super annoying. The main point with the resin printing was always the smell and the fact that it's toxic and you cannot really have, you need some kind of ventilation. So I think this is actually a good solution because it's super flexible. And if you figure out at some point, okay, I need it to be, I don't know, I need it a little bit bigger, you can just swap out some of the panels, make it bigger or make it smaller. And yeah, that's super flexible in a way that you don't have to throw it away if you figure out that you needed a different size or something. You don't need to throw away everything. Of course, we probably need to replace the panels, but that is at least a little bit of a, yeah, it's an investment that is not too serious, I guess, so far. Now, what will I be printing next is we are printing these little elements. I'm gonna bring it to the studio to show you what it is for. So let's take this off. And we can already start one. So this is the failed attempts here. You see, these were the failed attempts because I put them this way, and that wasn't really working. So that's why we had to do it again. Orientation. Let's get back. What panel? So what I've got here is, oh, the camera is gone, light is gone, but we don't need it anymore. So what I have here is one of the acrylic panels. It is still not transparent because there is a protective foil on it, which we would have to take off before it is actually transparent. But this is how it works. Essentially, you have the panel is fitting inside of the frame like this, right? And then you have these corner elements that are holding it in place. So very simple. You have these corner things. Let's take one of them. So let's take off the support here. So here we go. So the corner element is sliding over. Now it's a little bit thicker because of the foil, but you get the idea. It's just put over. Then you have your mounting points, which align with these holes here. And that's how it looks like in the end. And then you have the same going around here and all around the frame. And just screw it in and that's it. You don't have to cut holes into the acrylic. So even if you say, hey, at some point, I want something bigger or smaller, you can just take this out and put it somewhere else or use it in another project. So it doesn't even require you to cut a hole in. And same goes for the doors. Even there, you don't have to cut holes in. I think most of this is going without cutting holes into the acrylic panel. So in that way, potentially you can use them for something else if you decide you want something, a different project, or you want something bigger or smaller. So in a way, it's not wasting your acrylic panels. So we're gonna print, I think we need, I don't know how many, like we need, I think not for the doors, but we need at least the same 3 times for the back. Yeah, so you need 12 total from these. And then also we need to print all of the covers between. Then we can already mount the panels, and then also the door elements have another, I don't know, dozen of parts or something for the hinges and stuff, but that's fairly, yeah, that's I think that's easy. Still not too happy with the result here. I think I should have done more support. So it is a little bit more from a quality perspective. It is not bad, but since we decided that we're only going to put spot support here, because we printed it this way, right? So we decided that we're going to have some 3 supports here. It is a little bit inconsistent in terms of the quality in this area. So probably I want to have more, maybe I'm going to go back to the traditional support, though it really covers the whole flat side. So it's a little bit more consistent in terms of the look and feel, but so far so good. It's not so bad. Looks fine to me. Yeah, 16. Yeah, we need, yeah, you're right. We need 4 more for the top, and then we need to cut at least 1 hole to the top. So we can feed the filament from the outside, but still, even that I'm undecided yet, because I'm not sure yet whether I want to have my filament spool for the testing, at least if I want to keep it inside or if I want to put it outside. Let's see. I'm undecided on that because we have something here that is maybe going to be, it's actually going to be easier to put it inside, because Reality also sent this, how's it called? It has a weird name actually. The Space Pi filament dryer. So maybe we should put this inside, but you can also put it outside. So I'm still undecided whether we want to put this inside to keep the filament dry. So I'm gonna figure that out until next week, so we can make the cuts and the holes that are required. Definitely going to make the holes for the ventilation part. So we can see that here. There is some, at least some recommendations, but honestly, you have to make your own choices in terms of how big are these holes going to be, because it depends very much on the standard hoses that you want to use. So if you want to use 100 millimeter, for example, there's going to be a different cutout for that, whether you want to use something that is smaller. So that's the choice is thing to be done yet. I didn't make that final choice yet, but in terms of the cutouts that I need for the ventilation. Great. Kokelson. What a name. Kokelson, welcome to the stream. Good evening, Mr. Printer YouTuber. Hello, hello. Good to have you here. For now, I think we're good. I have another thing currently going, which is a little repair project that I'm currently doing. Maybe we're gonna do that in somewhere in the middle. I'm currently repairing my old computer. Figured out that I have to replace the power supply, so that's another project that I'm currently doing. Maybe we can finish that also next week, so we can have that computer finally for the background wall, running some fun stuff on the wall. So still struggling with the power supply, but that's hopefully everything that I have to do for next week to get it working again. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the PC, but it was working a couple of weeks back, but I didn't figure out why it wasn't working last week until I realized that the power supply wasn't delivering certain voltages anymore, and that probably is an issue with the power supply. So I started desoldering some of the, I was kind of making a guess. I was making a bet and say, okay, my bet is, or my guess is, that the capacitors are basically broken and that they can't hold the capacity and the voltage anymore. So I replaced the main capacitors on the power supply, but that wasn't the issue. And I was like, oh my goodness, do I have to go through all of the parts now and unsolder them first and figure out? So I figured that is an easier way to do this with an ATX power supply. You can just basically just use an ATX power supply and figure out the connectors. And I think that's also good enough for me. I'm not so much about this power supply. I don't care so much about the power supply, more care about the computer itself. But maybe we find someone in Munich who can repair this in the long run. So it is going to be working at some point. But I don't have the time and don't have the experience, honestly, to repair that stuff. So, Schneider PC. That was my first computer. That PC was, my grandma bought this for me, I guess, was it 1989 must have been. I hint the build year of this thing is also 1989, so it's like, it's really old. That was funny times. The first computers. That was a time where really you were the only person in the classroom who had a PC. There was maybe 3 other people who had a C64 and maybe 2 other people who had an Amiga 500, and that's it. So Yeah, it's always good to see old tech. The thing is, I love to have it working. I think it's worth repairing the stuff, at least for because it's still working. Like, it really that you can still boot it. It can still run stuff. So at least I would be happy if I could get it up and running again, even though it's not productively usable for me. But yeah, it's more like some kind of emotional stuff, I would say. The Amiga 500, oh my goodness, yeah, it's just so good times, right? So we had these computers, we were super happy. Sarand, I'm guessing you're heading to bed now. Alexander? Yeah, my problem is that I can't figure out exactly what's wrong with the power supply. I guess I saw that there is some capacitors on there that might need some replacement. In the end, you might have to measure every single part. And there is some voltage reduction or some voltage regulators on there, which are probably an easy replacement. But yeah, someone needs to take it and figure out what parts are broken. And I think I'm probably not that qualified for that. Yeah, if someone is here in the audience who could fix it for me, I'm happy to pay you for that. My goodness. Let me know. You can. Okay, Alexander, I'll take it. I mean, if you feel able to do that, then I'm happy to send it to you, and you can try to repair it for me. So would be happy. I guess it's not so complicated. There is actually not so many parts in there. It's surprisingly little in terms of, probably like not more than 30 parts, I would say. It looks simple, but yeah, maybe I don't have the right tools to measure the stuff and figure out what parts are really broken. Yeah, so my approach is probably too stupid to replace everything and then hope for the best. But that is also, yeah, maybe you could figure out what is actually broken. Great, thank you for offering that. So we'll definitely have a chat next time and see if I can send it to you. So just ping me on Discord, so we can chat. Great idea, thank you. Because in the end, my idea was, I have a little screen for that, which is luckily it's a flat screen, so it's not a huge screen. It works with the flat screen, and I would love to have it somewhere here. So I would love to have it somewhere here or somewhere there on the wall, and then have the flat screen somewhere here, or maybe a little bit to the left or to the right, so we can at least see it from most of the perspective. And then have some kind of, I don't know, endless demo loop running there. I'm not sure if the board is okay. At least when I used it last time, it was working. So maybe it makes more sense to, I mean, the power supply, independently from the main board, the power supply doesn't deliver anything except 12 volt plus. It doesn't deliver 5 volt anymore. It doesn't deliver minus 12 volt anymore. So for sure, there is something wrong with the power supply, unless it is fixed. So what I will do, maybe it makes sense to check with the ATX power supply that I have here and some connector fix, so some temporary connection. I will test out whether the ATX power supply, if that works. So if just delivering the right voltages to the right plugs, can the computer run? If it runs, I think then we're good, because then we know that it is really just a power supply. If it does still not boot, I don't know if it's still repairable. Let's see. But I think the first step for me is now this week I'm going to just test it with the ATX power supply and figure out if that's still working. Great. My friends, it is late. I will close it with this. Don't forget that you should enter your nozzles into the giveaway if you want to participate in the Ender 3 V3KE giveaway. If you do it today, you will still participate next week, even if you can't make it to the stream. And we'll talk definitely next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Plan again, I guess we're gonna finish most of the frame, at least. I'm gonna print everything that's left. Yeah, so we're gonna mount the panels, we're gonna mount the doors, and then in the meanwhile, I'm gonna make the decision whether I want to make some cuts and some holes to the panels. So I guess next week we're definitely gonna be finishing this and moving it to the target destination table, because it's not going to be here, of course, not going to be here in the studio, but it's going to be in the workshop. So I'm gonna probably just put it there, and next week we want to have it sitting in the workshop so we can start testing some prints, maybe with the Ender 3 V3KE and some ABS or ASA. So let's figure out if that works. So guys, see you next week. I wish you a good evening, a good night. And yeah, don't forget about the giveaway. Bye-bye. Happy to have everyone here. And stay healthy. Stay cool.